America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
And we're doing it on Getter
Every single day.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
Well, there it is. There it is. There is a city I can't see because obviously I'm not in the studio. I'm in a remote studio, and this is great. My good friend Mark over here is switching the show. But let's go to the cam, the control room cam. Can we do that? There you are. Control. Mad Dog, give us a wave. There he is. Ben, everyone's there. All the boys are there. So the control room, this is being actually, it's called switched out of West Palm Beach, but we're taping where the camera and lighting background is in Orlando. So we're having a little bit of fun here. All right, folks, welcome back. Happy Friday. Our Rev, Real America's Voice, Chief White House Correspondent Brian Glenn joins us now. Brian, good to have you on, my friend. So Speaker Mike Johnson was on a call this morning on American Sunrise, and he covered a few topics. One of them was why Elise Stefanik's nomination got pulled from being the UN ambassador. Take a listen to the soundbite.
Now, I just want to say this about my dear friend Elise Stefanik. She is a great leader, a devoted patriot. She would have done extraordinary work at the UN, but the president recognized, as we do, that her voice and her vote are really important in the House right now. And so he asked her, and she, really heroically agreed to delay that thing and to stay with us and to continue to work on this in the House. There is no doubt that she's going to be an important voice in all this and an important vote, and I'm glad she's here. The president also said, because he recognizes her great talent, that he's going to have a place for her in the administration as soon as we grow this margin. And so that's an open invitation to her, and I think it's appropriate.
All right, let's bring in Brian. Brian, important that Elise Stefanik did this, and I guess it's, she's really taking one for the team, for the Trump team on this, because she really wanted that position. But as we've been talking about all week, all of a sudden Florida 6 becomes in play, right? So Florida 1, Gates' old seat, clearly going to go to Jimmy Petronis, the former Chief Financial Officer of Florida under Ron DeSantis. He'll probably lock down Gates' seat. But Florida 6, which is Walz' seat, all of a sudden is now in play. So Trump says, hey, Elise, I need that seat in New York because it'll likely go away. So really, team player, what the voices walking around the White House, what are they saying about this pullback?
Yeah. Eric, I was thinking right after inauguration when Trump started kind of plucking really great Republicans out of our conference. That's the bad news, is we've got a lot of talented people to choose from. But the other bad news is it also brings down our majority a little bit. So when you look at District 6 and Mike Waltz's old district, and you look at who is, I guess, presumably going to take his place if he's elected, that was a heavily Republican district. I think it was a plus 30.
Right.
And the guy now,
for Trump. It was plus 30 for Trump. Right. But it just became a toss-up all of a sudden. So go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I don't understand it. I don't know. And in all fairness, I don't know Randy Fine. I don't cover that state house in Florida, but I just got a question: was this the right guy? Because obviously, if he was up, if that district is a plus 30 for Trump, I would assume that any Republican, a MAGA Republican, would be able to hold a little bit of that majority, but that has not happened. Last night, they did have a town hall with President Trump, and trying to, I guess, boost the numbers on Mr. Fine, but things are not fine in House District 6. And so if that wasn't the story, Eric, I'm wondering if this Elise Stefanik withdrawal would have happened. Because if we knew that Gates' seat is a shoo-in and Walt's seat was a shoo-in, then, Elise Stefanik would go on and be that UN ambassador. It's just, it's a little chaotic right now. But Eric, I got to be honest with you. This is what I was thinking from the very beginning. Like, we barely have a majority in Congress. We can't afford to lose anybody.
We can't. You
know
why?
That's the situation we're in.
Because you lose the House, Trump can be impeached. I mean, it won't go through, obviously, because the Senate would never let it happen. We're not going to lose the Senate. I said we being Republicans. Right. You lose the House, all of a sudden Trump becomes lame duck. He doesn't get all these policies through that he wants so badly, and he's doing so well with so many people are loving what he's doing so far. You lose the House, everything comes to a grinding halt for the next 2 years from 26 to 28. Yeah. And that's a disaster for Trump. That's a disaster. So you're right. Picking Mike Waltz and a couple other high-profile true MAGA Congress people is a scary concept. And if we're down to 1 or 2 seats, anything can happen. That, again, remember, everyone comes up for re-election. These are special elections because of Trump pulling them out. But yeah, very, very scary. Here's the other thing, though. Whenever this term is up for Elise Stefanik, she will be a superstar in MAGA world. Sure, absolutely. But, I would like to see maybe a pick from another district that would without a doubt provide a better candidate. It's all about choices. It's all about character choices. And like I said, I don't know Mr. Fine. I hope he wins. Of course I hope he wins. But maybe there were some other candidates out there that had a stronger polling amongst that community. I don't know, but we can just hope that when this special election happens. So what folks aren't understanding, what you don't understand is that they are special elections. And what Governor Hochul in New York said, she gave some indication that she may not put forward a special election, meaning you lose the opportunity for a Republican to get to replace Stefanik in New York. And then if you lose Florida 6, you may be down to 1 or none if someone gets sick or has to leave.
Or dies.
Literally,
look what's happening.
Dies. Trump could lose the House and become impeachable next year, next month, for that matter.
Yeah. And if we don't think for a second that they'll do that, Eric, they will do that. I mean, Democrats, look, they still want to take us down. I mean, look at what's happening in the courts right now. That's their goal. And so, like you said, if someone gets sick, if someone dies, if someone doesn't have the ability to physically come to Washington and vote, you can't proxy votes. That takes that off the table. You just miss votes. Now, this is a crucial time, and this is not the situation we want to be in, considering what we have to do right now with this agenda. These executive orders only go so far. I wish we had a carrier pigeon that would fly out of the Oval Office with these executive orders and just flutter the way over to the Capitol and land and drop off the executive orders, and then the Speaker to go ahead and draft it up or put it on the floor for a vote and go to the Senate. And I want to get these things into law. That's what I want in a perfect world.
In a perfect world, Brian Glenn, I would think you'd want to travel with the vice president this week instead of staying in the White House. He went from Quantico to shoot some really big guns, which we saw the other day, and then today he goes to Greenland. I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty cool travel for the vice president this week. Brian, we get to go. Great to have you on, and see you again very soon. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Okay, brother. All right, folks. Tampon Tim. This guy will just not go away. And I will tell you the reason why he's called Tampon Tim. The governor of Minnesota says that every one of his public bathrooms, if you're public in a bathroom, the boys' rooms and the girls' rooms have to have tampon dispensers. And so he became known as Tampon Tim. Even if the school didn't want to do it, you want funding from the state, you're going to have tampons in the boys' rooms. He still doesn't get it, and he probably never will. Take a listen.
That our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them. And so...
First of all, can anyone be more unlikable than Tim Walz? I don't think so. I think Kamala Harris made a huge mistake picking him as her vice president. But whatever. The point is, no, dummy, you got into the mess you're in, getting slaughtered and having the lowest approval rate in modern history for Democrats because of those policies. Don't you think, Timmy, that moms and dads were sick of their kids coming home from school, 5 years old, 7 years old, and being told that their teacher is teaching them about transsexuality and gender dysphoria? Do you think that the American public isn't sick of that and wasn't sick of that? And moms and these drag shows and parades and downtown of Main Street, USA, with dudes with things hanging out, with little kids watching? We were sick of it. Tim, you're an idiot. You want to keep that? Fine. Keep going like that. In fact, I hope you run for president in 2028. It'll be just fun to see you get an absolute zero. I'm in O-Town, Orlando. That's how many votes Tampon Tim will get if he runs for president. And he's clearly trying to do something like that. You don't do a speech like he just threw out there unless you have some sort of thought that you're going to win a higher office, a national office. Good luck with that, Timmy. Another Dem that simply doesn't get it would be State Representative Christine Reeves of the state of Washington. She just compared not wanting men in women's sports, dudes in women's sports, which is now a law, federal law, thanks to Trump. Well, she compared that to not allowing black athletes to compete professionally back in the day. Listen to this moronic quote.
I recall a time in our country's history, not that long ago, given that my grandmother just passed away, where people like my grandfather were told that they could not participate in sporting activities because he was a black man. I feel compelled this morning, Madam Speaker, to encourage us to vote no on this amendment, to stop repeating the disingenuous arguments that other humans in our society, rather than embracing inclusion and encouraging folks to evolve as the humans that we are, to be more.
No, State Representative Reeves, it's nothing to do with that. It's our women are being hurt by trans athletes. Men are hurting them. They're beating the living daylights out of them on the fields, in the swimming pools, because they're bigger and they're stronger. It's a fact. Sorry, it's a literal fact. Men's muscle mass is multiples of women's in their body. Our bone density is stronger than women's bone density. It's just a fact. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin. Our northern neighbors, Canadians, are talking themselves into quite a bit of bravado and maybe trouble. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is just begging to find out, if you know what I mean.
But I can assure you one thing, we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. And
Mad Dog, voice of God, control him, camera, please. Voice of God, Mad Dog, you there?
Yes,
Did you
sir.
hear what he said? He said, without inflicting pain. Without. He wants to inflict pain on Americans, Mad Dog, without inflicting pain on the Canadians. What's up with that?
I don't know. Without.
Good commentary. I listened to this weird, gross, perverted take from a pair of lefty lunatics who were actually advocating for biological dudes in women's locker rooms. Listen.
The locker room at a gym, you've got people walking around naked. And if you have women who say, listen, I do not want to be walking around naked with a person, however he or she identifies, who's got male equipment, right? I just don't want that in my locker room.
I got to tell you, Sam, there's a lot of people with male equipment that I don't want to see when I'm in the men's locker room, and I'm a gay man. There's a lot of people with male equipment I'd rather not see. There's a lot of guys with the hair dryer blowing their balls. I'd rather not see that. That's just life, though.
I'm sorry I had to do that. I'm sorry I had to play that guy, that nut job, no pun intended, Tim Miller, lunatic. Dude, we don't want to see what you do in the men's room. I don't care if you're gay or what. Fine. Libertarian. Don't care. Sleep with who you want to. Doesn't matter. Dress how you want. Keep it away from the kids and keep it out of the damn men's locker room. Can't end the week or the day without a Jasmine Crockett. Well, she ended her week with another miserable quote. She claims to be tired of white tears, which is just an instantly racist dog whistle thing to say. If a white member of Congress said that to a black person in Congress, they would be immediately expelled. But as usual, Jazzy Jasmine Crockett is allowed to say whatever comes to that tiny little mind of hers, this big. Listen to this disgusting statement from America's dumbest Congresswoman.
I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder.
Just imagine for one moment that Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Lauren Boebert for that matter, made the same comment about mediocre African-American Congresswoman like Jazzy Jasmine Crockett. They would be probably censored, if not worse. It's ridiculous, folks. Had to leave it there with Jazzy Jasmine. When we come back, 2.5 minutes, we got Ben Bergquam at the border. I'm hoping he's at the border, but Ben's going to tell us what's going on with the border. Back in 2.5. Well, Roswell, New Mexico, the area of Area 51, where all the spooky aliens hang out. And I'm not talking about illegal aliens. I'm talking about the ones from other planets, Roswell, New Mexico. All right, let's turn to our discussion to our border, which is much better now that President Trump's in office, but the cartels are still major players, and Democrat judges are working hard to protect the cartels. Here to tell us the latest is host of RAV's Law and Border, Ben Bergquam. Ben, they tell me you're in your happy place. Tell us where you are, and more importantly, where you're going tomorrow?
Well, really, really happy place. I just celebrated my 20th anniversary with my wife. We just got back from Europe yesterday. And I have a day in between. I'm heading back to Mexico. I'll be linking up with Oscar Ramirez Sunday, and we'll be doing a week.
They needed, but we should have gotten oil in return. Trump is literally, walking the walk now, saying, "Hey, Zelensky, we've given you," he says $300 billion, but that's a huge number. I've heard 180, I've heard 200, whatever. We've given you $300 billion, but you're going to pay us back. That's the first time I've ever heard an American president say, "Hey, we'll help you out, but it's going to cost you too." I love this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because he looks at this, $32 trillion.
Because it's so dangerous right now, in particular for journalists. And then we'll be up on the border in one of the most dangerous cities on the border, just exposing what the cartel is doing. There's a cartel war going on, multiple cartel wars going on. It's cartels warring each other as well as warring the government because of the policies President Trump has put in place. But real quick, I want to mention what you said in the intro. What we have at our southern border is the best southern border we've had in decades. But the biggest problem we have right now are two things. We have NGOs that are training illegals on how to break the law and how to stay in this country illegally. And we have judges that are fighting our own ICE and our own immigration policies to get rid of these illegals that are allowing illegals to stay. And that's the biggest problem we have right now. On the south side of the border, and again, you said it, they're directly aiding and abetting the cartels. On the south side of the border, you've got cartels that are fighting over territory, fighting over drug routes, because that gravy train that Joe Biden gave them is being sucked up. And with scarcity comes fights. And that's what we're seeing right now. There's more scarcity than we've seen down there in 4 years. And so the cartel's fighting for every last inch that they can secure.
Fighting for the few areas, fewer and fewer areas that they can traffic their women, their children, and their drugs, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, the drug routes are well established. You've got major routes through the ports of entry. That's where still a majority of drugs come through. But you also have tunnel networks under cities like Juarez into El Paso, by the way, which those tunnels were dug by Hamas and Hezbollah that came over and taught the Sinaloa cartel how to do that. They're still operating in conjunction with those organizations. But you've got those, but you also have major drug trafficking routes that are still operational out in areas like Sassabee, Arizona, in the Tohono O'odham Indian Reservation. That's a multinational Indian reservation. So those areas are still battlegrounds for the cartel.
That's
but then you also have the other side
Ben.
of that.
Can I just stop in there for so if they dig under the border, which I've been in those tunnels. There's thousands of them, and they're this big, and they run electricity through them, and sometimes fans through them. And sometimes the fans break and people die in the tunnels. I get. But if they dig through and end up on an Indian reservation, the feds can't bust them there, can they?
Well, Border Patrol operates there, so they can. We still have jurisdiction on the border. But the problem is down there, they don't even need that. It's so open. There's no wall down in the Tohono O'odham Reservation. It's just a chain link fence. And so, barbed wire fence. So they don't need a tunnel down there. They just simply walk across. In fact, they can drive trucks on the Mexico side. They have a gates that they can just simply drive through. The Indian Reservation has special permissions that they can drive across. It's sovereign land. And so they don't even have to do a border check. They just simply drive from Mexico into the United States.
But a border cop, ICE or CBP could stop an Indian reservation vehicle they suspect of carrying illegals?
Yes. So we still have the operational control on certain aspects of the reservations, but you don't have the security that you have in other parts of the border that are controlled by the United States fully.
Very quickly, Ben, this whole idea of this judge Boasberg stopping Trump's deportation of Tren de la Agua thugs, criminals. How is that playing out on the border with the men and women in law enforcement on the border? Is it demoralizing?
Oh, well, they're just disgusted. These people, they look at this guy like he's a traitor. He's a traitor to our country. He's aiding and abetting cartels and terrorist organizations and criminals. And he's bought and paid for leftist. He's an activist. He's not a judge. He's an activist. And so, until we actually impeach these guys, until we get rid of these guys, until we have some consequences for actions like this judge and multiple others across our country, then we're going to be in trouble. We're not going to be able to do the mass deportations that have to be done to save this country. If we don't have that, 4 years from now, 8 years from now, the masses of illegals that have brought in are simply going to invite more illegals in, and this country is going to be dead. It's national suicide what Joe Biden and Kamala did over the last 4 years. But if we don't get rid of those, the pillars, the establishment parts of the foundation of this nation that are working to undermine this country from within, the deep state, the judges, all these guys, we're still screwed. So that to me has to job number one. Go after the NGOs, go after the judges, allow law enforcement to do their job.
And the scary part of the NGO, Laura Loomer discovered, and we put it on her. She believes it's to be true, and she says she has the receipts that this judge that stopped the deportation flights has a daughter who runs an NGO who was taking literally millions of dollars from USAID for what purpose? To house and protect illegals in the country. I mean, if this isn't the most insane, disgusting conflict of interest the judge has had since Judge Juan Merchan in New York with Trump and his daughter, who worked for the Democrat Party. But it's crazy. The risk that they're putting our folks in at the border and frankly in our cities too. Ben, final thought. And by the way, can you just tell me this? When you go to these dangerous places with the cartels who are warring, do you feel for your own safety? Are you scared? Do you have fear?
It's funny. You're watching some footage right now. This was a shootout in the jungle down in Panama, and we were actually had bullets flying over our head there. And it was against the Gulf cartel. And I got to tell you, I wasn't afraid. I mean, I probably should have been, but there's a sense that, I don't know, God's angel armies go with me. But there are times, there's no doubt about it. There are places you go where it is a scary place to be. And so obviously I don't want to get shot. So we take as many precautions as we can. But this is the reality of the danger we walk into.
All right, Ben, we're going to leave it right there, and we'll check in with you again. And stay safe, my friend.
God bless you. Will do.
All right, bye. So we'll be back in 2.5 minutes, folks. I'm laughing because that's Mystic, Connecticut. And I asked Mad Dog in the control room, why do they say Connecticut? Connecticut. Why don't they? That's the way it's spelled, right? Mystic, never been there. And Mad Dog went to school somewhere near something that sounds like that. Tariff wars, recession fears, and stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In fact, over $3,000 an ounce again today. First time in history. In volatile markets like right now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. Take control and safeguard your savings. That's why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They've helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. It's time for you to hedge against inflation and economic instability with gold. To learn how to own physical gold, when I say physical gold, I mean gold coins and gold bars, the real stuff, folks. You can own it in a tax-sheltered account. Text America to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text America to the number 989898. With a A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold will help you protect your savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess we're in, and they're trying to unpack now. How long will it take to get us out of it, and at what cost? Again, text America to 989898 today. Alrighty, folks. Former D.C. U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova, good friend, joins us now to talk about these Democrat judges, these activist judges who just don't seem to care about American citizens. Joe, thanks for being here, and this Boasberg, this Judge Boasberg, and first of all, the conflict of interest of his daughter running an NGO that takes money from USAID for the purpose of housing and hiding illegals is insane. But I'm now hearing that this same Judge Boasberg has been appointed to oversee a lawsuit against Pete Hegseth, Mike Walls, Tulsi Gabbard, and the folks who were involved in that signal leak a couple weeks ago.
Yes, well, they say that case was assigned to him randomly, but if so, the percentages for that occurring are astronomical because he now has 4 cases involving the Trump administration in major matters. He claims, and the court claims, that it was a random selection. But I must say, people are dubious of that, but unfortunately, there's nothing they can do about it because the Court of Appeals and the other judges have no say in it whatsoever. So we are where we are, and it's pretty pathetic.
Joe, it strikes me that it's going to come down to, for this issue, I'm ready for it to go away. To be honest with you, no one got hurt. Mission was accomplished well. What is classified? I mean, do we know who determines what's classified?
Well, classification is determined by the individual head of the agency. And that's they can classify whatever they want, whatever they want. If they want to call something classified, whatever level, confidential, sensitive, secret, top secret, compartmentalized, they have the power to do that. Judge has no power to intervene and determine what is secret or not secret. That's a pure executive branch function. If Judge Boasberg were to inject himself into that area, he would be truly in bizarre territory. But he seems to want to engage with the administration and to push back against what are clearly legitimate exercises of executive branch power. Judge Boasberg, in the case that's now on appeal involving the expulsion of Tren de Agua people to El Salvador, that is a pure executive branch, foreign policy, military, national security function. Judges have no right whatsoever to interfere in those. And his deciding that there is no war is absolutely ludicrous because, in fact, there is a guerrilla warfare going on between Venezuela and the United States, of which Tren de Agua are the foot soldiers. So we'll see. The Supreme Court's going to get a chance to deal with this. We're capturing people and holding them, and they're being deported by other means. It's just that if you can get them out of the country like this fast, you can deport many, many more, and it's cheaper to do so.
Yeah, the strange timing of all this is Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic, who's the editor, who says he was added to this text thread, knew in advance of the Yemen attacks. Okay, whatever. But he knew 14 days, he knew 2 weeks ago. Attacks happen. He stays quiet until the day before a Senate hearing with Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and Radcliffe. The day before that hearing, he releases this news, knowing very well that those three were going to get grilled. I think Kash stood up for himself very well, and America and Donald Trump. Take a listen to this.
Now that another day has passed, do you believe that it's now time potentially for the FBI to open an investigation into this?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Because you're the director of the FBI, you don't believe it's appropriate to comment on that?
Because there's a process in place, there's an ongoing litigation, and the National Security Council is reviewing this matter. And I'm not going to discuss any open or closed investigations.
That ongoing investigation, literally, the lawsuit happened today or yesterday afternoon, and the idea that you don't have an opinion on this at this point is frustrating to me.
No, it's not. I'm not going to prejudge any matters, and the men and women of the FBI will call the balls and strikes.
Reclaiming my time,
not
sir.
you.
Sir,
And Joe, if you heard her, she said that lawsuit happened today or yesterday. It happened today or yesterday because Jeffrey Goldberg sat on that news that he had those texts until the day before that hearing.
And he probably shared that information with the people who filed the lawsuit. That lawsuit just didn't happen. What I want to know is who had Jeffrey Goldberg in their contacts on their phone? I want to know that because that person needs to be talked to. We got to find out how this happened. This seems so impossible to me that something this serious could have happened by accident. If someone did this and it was in fact an accident, really, there's just no excuse for it. Somebody has to be punished for that.
You know, it could have been a staffer. Sure. The point is, for me, it's not that a reporter or a magazine editor somehow got added. It's the type that Jeffrey Goldberg is. The guy is like,
of course,
so he's a left-wing nut job, but he's got a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. Of all the reporters to be added, it wasn't Sean Hannity or Brett Baer or Tucker Carlson. It was Jeffrey Goldberg, one of the biggest haters of Trump on the planet. Very, very strange. It could have been staffer getting paid off because he knows Mike Balls has Jeffrey Goldberg's contact in his phone. Maybe he's like, hey, I got this. I can do this. You're right. Open an investigation. Final thought, Joe.
Well, the National Security Council is looking into it, but right now it's very difficult to say. Clearly, somebody blew it big time. All I want to know is who had Jeffrey Goldberg on their phone among their contacts. That's what I want to know. Who was that person?
Yeah, I could be wrong, but everything I've read, it was Mike Wallace. Not saying he put it into that chat, but I was told that Mike Wallace's phone added Jeffrey Goldberg into that Signal chat. So it remains to be seen. But again, folks, I don't know that for sure. Again, we have to be a little careful here because there's too much at stake. Joe DeGenova, love having you on this network. I used to work with Joe on a couple of the other networks. This is the right one, Joe. This is the fun one, my friend.
You got it right. Good to talk to you, Eric.
All right, see you again soon. All right, folks, before we head to break, I just wanted to remind you about I've got a podcast and a YouTube page, which are both updated daily with a bunch of content that is unique from this. And sometimes I use a little bit more, colorful language because I'm allowed to. Rob Sig doesn't like me to do it here, but we have a little fun at the other place. So join us. I hope you come and listen to the show and all the other content, tons of content that we upload there, anywhere, anytime. Be sure to subscribe also. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. We really, really love to have you around. Thank you. So don't miss out. We will be back in 2.5 minutes. righty. Las Vegas in the back. Right, Mad Dog? Las Vegas? Yeah. It doesn't look like the Strip. That's not the Strip I know. It's not the Las Vegas Strip I know, Mad Dog. I don't see any buildings. I don't see the wind.
This is out in the desert. It's my personal desert cam.
A desert cam. Got it. Maybe we'll see Ben Bergholm in there somewhere. All right, folks. Every week, these questions build up in my mind as I watch the leftist machine melt down and the Trump derangement syndrome take them to new heights of embarrassment and stupidity. So we're back this Friday with some of my burning questions of the day and the week. And some of these boggle the mind. Here we go. Question of the day. How many times a day do you think Kamala Harris regrets picking this guy?
We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote. This is one of the things, though, that this is going to take power to the streets. And look, I don't know what the answer is on this, but I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government, so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening, telling what's going out.
So did you hear that? A shadow government. That's what he's saying. This guy's answer to President Trump implementing fair and honest and legal voting laws, like needing to show a government ID to vote. Well, that's somehow a shadow government to Tampon Tim. Saying the loud part out loud as usual. This socialist freak is on tour, folks. Who's he touring? For what? An alternate press conference telling the truth. Man, this guy really was trained by the Chinese. If you look back, he spent a lot of time in China. Looks like Tampon Timmy loves nice long swims in communism during his daily trip to the bathhouse. See what I did there? This guy's really, really clearly on his Trump derangement syndrome tour because he thinks he's some kind of, presidential hopeful in 2028, which is beyond laughable. He even brought another loser, Beto O'Rourke, remember Beto, with him, which is a real low point for this guy. And there have been many low points. Listen.
And to all the young people who are here, I just pause for a moment and look around and look at, I'm especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
Why do Democrats hate white people so much? All white Democrats hate white people so much. Every single time I see this guy's face, I'm reminded of the bullet we dodged by electing Trump. Question of the day. What is Joy Behar smoking?
They also have a tendency to blame the Biden administration. It's like, move on. That ship has sailed. I never remember in my lifetime a sitting president trashing a previous president.
Oh, really? What about this?
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays. I was in that World War I cemetery in France. And the one that one of our colleagues, the former president, didn't want to go and be up there. When the president was asked what he thought had happened, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides. My God." That's what he said. It sounds like I said this 5 years ago. You'd lock me up. We got to lock him up.
So put a little of that in your pipe and smoke it, Joy Behar. The View is just a never-ending contest of who's more stupid and who can get this show sued for the fastest for telling outright lies. And just to add a little question to this particular question of the day, how many damn times are they going to tell Trump said fine people on both sides lie? Remember that? He didn't say that. He didn't say that. It's another hoax. Well, as many times as they lie about that is how many times I'm going to prove them wrong. Roll the clip.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
Moving on to the question of the day. Do you see any women or children on this plane? Look at them. Look at these people being deported back to Venezuela. Men, gang members, I suppose, chanting about Tren de Aragua. I see Venezuelan gang members, badass guys. But you know what I don't see? I don't see a woman, and I don't see a child. Do you? So AOC and Selena Gomez can cry their liberal crocodile tears somewhere else. This is what I voted for. This is what more than 77 million Americans voted for. Smiling, grinning invaders singing songs about a violent gang being deported back to their own country and out of ours. Thank you, Trump. And as I've said before, any judge who tries to stop it, un-American. And any American who cries about it can be the next on the list for a flight out. Nothing is stopping you, Rosie O'Donnell. We won't miss you. Question of the day, why would we ever care what Democrats think they know about national security? Signalgate has shown us that we're all capable of making mistakes. Nothing's perfect. This is a massive fight we're in, fighting to save the country and to protect it. And it won't always go exactly as planned, but it's actually hysterical to hear the left pretend to care about the country's security after the clown show of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden, this guy right here, our former defense secretary as well, wearing a visor. The guy who, by the way, vanished for days without telling his boss, the president, or the country he was there, well, you know, to defend. Lloyd Austin went missing on 2 separate occasions. And he also got 13 service members killed, and there was no call for resignations of Lloyd Austin by the left, were there? But the biggest clown of them all, the big guy. I don't know why anyone trusts Democrats when they pontificate about national security, when they put this guy into the highest office in the land. Just a small reminder.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. Made in America. We are all created equal, endowed by in the image of God, endowed by our Creator to be able to treat it equally throughout our lives. Find answers to the drug problem, to drugs, with the use of drugs for health problems. When I went to Dearborn, driving that, was up there. I don't know, man. I think the press thought I was crazy. We saw new standards. We set new standards. We slashed methane and brought over 100 nations together when I was at the big meeting we had in Europe.
Oh, yeah. We were really safe under that guy. We feel real secure with that guy, commander-in-chief, so to speak. It was Democrats who instilled a mumbling, senile, geriatric hair sniffer crook as the one with his finger on the nuclear button, folks. Can you imagine that? For 4 years, they actively pretended he was mentally competent. And only when it looked like they would lose an election did they acknowledge his true mental state. America was at grave and profound risk for 4 years thanks to the Democrats. Anything they say about national security is laughable. And finally, question of the day. What does the left hope to achieve through their anti-Tesla violence? Seriously. Because every single thing these people say and do against Elon Musk only serves up a glaring example of why they lost in 2024 and why they will continue to lose going forward. Violence, blind hatred for capitalism, but really, what do they hope to achieve? Are they sending a message to President Trump? Loud and clear received, but it won't stop him from doing the job at hand, which is saving the country from precisely this kind of BS. They love to have invaders here. They love criminals in our streets. So the absence of all that, are they trying to be the invaders themselves? Are they missing the deported criminals so much that they want to become criminals themselves? Because Tesla is a publicly traded company. When Democrats attack Tesla and Tesla showrooms, they're not actually attacking Elon Musk, idiots. Instead, they're attacking the millions of ordinary Americans who have Tesla stock as part of their investment and retirement accounts. It's pure fascism at its peak, and fascism clearly is what Democrats do best. And by the way, tomorrow, March 29th, is the Democrats' Jasmine Crockett's Day of Rage against Tesla. Anything bad happens, put it right back on them and her. We'll see you back in 2.5. So Mad Dog, you're in the wilderness. You're liking the wilderness. I'm seeing a lot of wilderness. Vegas, I see a prairie. Where's this one, Dog? Montana?
We have the desk cam up. You're actually on the desk.
Oh, take a look at that. Oh, look at how are you doing this? That's not me though. That's from yesterday. I know what you did there because there's a line through me. Either that or I'm actually behind the screen somehow. And you're playing kabuki theater with the TV. Dog, Mad Dog, you know about the IRS? The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. And with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up. And if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you can do. April 15th marks another tax year that's passed you by. Getting ahead of this now is this smart move, but never, never, never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning they know which agents to deal with and which ones to avoid, with proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million. Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Stop the threatening letters. Stop looking over your shoulder and protect yourself from property seizures and bank levies. Don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV. April 15th, just around the corner. Act now before the IRS acts first. All right, folks, this just in. This happened moments ago. We get the tape. It's called the tape turnaround. The State Department says, oh, actually, this isn't the tape. This isn't the Trump tape. We just heard this, though. State Department is now saying it is officially shuttering USAID. That's amazing. That is huge. USAID is that group that was being used by Democrats and a lot of people as some sort of slush fund, just wasting billions upon billions of taxpayer money. Jeremy Lewin, the agency's new deputy director and former DOJ official, wrote that the State Department intends to assume responsibility for many of the USAID's functions and its ongoing programming. This is huge because a lot of those Democrats were using USAID. Remember Mike Pence? Mike Pence was on the show and said basically USAID was so corrupt that the CIA was using it, but they had to move it out of the CIA because it was too corrupt and they want their hands dirty with it, which is interesting because the State Department moved the CIA out of the State Department because they were too dirty. They didn't want their hands dirty. So it's multiple levels of dirty or 2 degrees of dirty separation. But now, maybe now with Elon Musk and Doge, they've been looking into it. Maybe now finally we will get some pulling back of the disgusting waste, fraud, and abuse that USAID has represented for decades and literally hundreds of billions of dollars in the meantime. Alina Habba sworn in today as interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey. That happened today. Trump had a great time in the Oval Office. He had a lot of fun with Alina and her husband, and Pam Bondi was there to swear her in. Real nice time for them. How about this? Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. is all about health and wellness. Maha. He was in West Virginia today announcing proposed changes to food dye regulations and the SNAP program, which we talked about yesterday. It was the monologue yesterday. Oh, amazing. Maybe he heard it. I swear to God, I sent it to him. I sent him the monologue. So maybe this inspired him to talk a little bit about that program today in West Virginia, during which he issued a challenge to West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey. Now, this is kind of funny. Take a look.
I got to know, I said to Dr. Morris, or Governor Morrisey, the first time I saw him, I said, you look like you ate Governor Morrisey. And there was a lot of talk about getting healthy again, and I'm very happy that he's invited me to be his personal trainer. And I am going to put him... I'm going to put him on a really rigorous regimen. And we're going to put him on a carnivore diet. We're going to make him raise your hand if you want Governor Morrissey to do a public weigh-in once a month. And then when he's lost 30 pounds, I'm going to come back to the state and do a celebration and a public weigh-in with him.
And RFK Jr. is talking about Patrick Morrissey, the Republican governor of West Virginia. Give him the business a little bit. I'll tell you what, if you're going to weigh in once a month, I bet you he loses that 30 pounds. Do we have any of that video of this massive Bangkok, Thailand earthquake? There's some pictures floating around. CNN has posted them, so we believe them to be accurate. Buildings with swimming pools on their roofs breaking apart, swimming pools dropping millions of gallons of water into the streets. Some buildings seem to be falling over as well. 7.7 on the Richter scale, folks. 7.7 is very, very dangerous. Don't know any death tolls. I can't imagine it's 0 right now, but we'll find out as we go. I want you to make sure you have a good weekend. But I do want to remind you one thing about my podcast and my YouTube page, because it's very important. They're both updated daily with a ton of content that's not exactly this content. We do some other things. We let loose a little bit. We show you tons of other content that you can access anytime, anywhere, whenever you want it. So I'm going to ask you to be sure to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTube page to that content as well. I'll make sure you have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. But in the meantime, let's really, really think about those people in Bangkok, Thailand, because it's a scary thing that's going on. 7.7 is a massive, massive earthquake, folks. It's going to be really rough over the weekend. We'll keep our eye on that. Have a very good weekend. Have a safe weekend. I'll be back in studio on Monday. Be safe. Take care of yourself. And War Room starts in about 4 or 5 seconds or so. Have a great weekend. Bolling out.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome to the War Room. It's Friday, March 28th in the year of our Lord 2025. It's Natalie G. Winters hosting, not Stephen K. Bannon. Don't worry, he'll be back for the 6 p.m. But I'm honored to be able to bring you guys some exclusive content that we filmed, actually, believe it or not, at the White House in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. War Room was part of the inaugural podcast row that the White House comms team held. We were among several other outlets: Sage Steele, Jack Posobiec, Viva Frei, The Daily Wire, The Daily Signal, Dr. Drew, some other shows you may have known. We made the cut. We're always honored to be there. I was able to interview a bunch of people that I'm going to be bringing you, like I said, that exclusive content over the next hour. And how you know this event was really successful, not just because of the interviews you're about to see, but the legacy media is melting down over it. They're extremely jealous. So without further ado, Alina Habba will start it off strong. I'm honored to be joined by the one and only May Mailman, the Deputy Assistant